Hello, sports fans. Welcome to the Biokinetic K9 Live. We are at 5 o'clock here in Cape Town, and I hope you are having an absolutely fabulous Friday. What are we going to be talking about today? We're talking about endurance versus stamina. Are you training both of them? Do you actually know what it is? How does this work within your dog training, dog sport realm? So before we start, let me say hello. My name is Angela Hearn. I'm a certified canine athlete specialist and canine myofascial release practitioner. I am from the owner and founder of the Biokinetic K9, and this is what we do. We put programs together for your sporting dogs so that they can increase their body's capacity to take the strains of the sport, and that you lower your injury levels. So let us get on to today. If you can hear me, say hello, let me know where you're from, and let's get going. Endurance and stamina. Anybody got any ideas? When we're looking at endurance and stamina, we know they're all training things. It's got to do with sport and exercise, etc. But what are the differences? Well, let's just go about just the benefits of sport and conditioning for your dog. There are a few benefits which include improved cardio and respiratory function, so the heart lung function to get oxygen into the body and to reoxygenate the blood as you are training is very important. And of course, the more you're training, the stronger your body gets, and the better that flow of oxygen through the blood works. The benefits of exercise, whether for endurance or stamina, improves your reflexes, so your neurons are connecting better, they're firing better, you have better cardiovascular properties within your body. Your body knows how to utilize the oxygen that you're breathing better, and of course your body also improves on the musculoskeletal systems in the body, so your muscles and bones all improve when you are doing exercises that involve endurance and stamina. Hi Riani, how are you? So let's get going. Thank you for joining. If we're looking at sports, what is endurance and what is stamina in sport? When we look at various dog sports, there's loads of sports out there. Dogs enjoy it, all different breeds. Some breeds do better than others in the various sports, but each sport, take for example your hunt point retrieve, so your hunting dogs, you get agility dogs, you get flyball dogs, you get IGP dogs, you get canicross dogs, ski joring, bike joring, and all of these sports require varying degrees of endurance and stamina. So when you are looking at what endurance packages you should put together for your dogs, or what stamina packages you should put together for your dogs, you also have to look at what sport you are doing, because this is especially important for a canine athlete, so a dog that is actively participating in sports, especially if you want to go higher up, because each activity, each training package, you need to include various degrees of endurance and stamina in proportion to what their sport is required. So your hunting dog, for example, their endurance to stamina packages would be very different to an agility dog, because the requirements of the sports are so different, and what the body is required to do is very, very different. So you have to first of all, to see how much of each you need to put into your dog's sporting package, you must first see what that sport requires, and then you look at your dog's physicality and age, and you adapt accordingly. But now, what kinds of endurance are there? So there's quite a few endurance headings that you find. So you'll get, under the physical side of endurance, you'll get cardio endurance, and we see this when you are running long distances. So that would be a lot of your canicross, your bike joring, your ski joring, marathon runners, for example. This is your cardio endurance. You're having optimal heart-lung function, so optimal oxygenating of the blood. So your body knows what to do with the oxygen as it comes into the blood. So that is your cardio endurance. Then you have anaerobic endurance. Anaerobic endurance is how much energy the muscle can produce instantly for over what period of time. So there is an endurance or a duration element to it, but the difference is how much that muscle can work over a period of time. Where cardio endurance is just how long you can go before you actually can't breathe, you're running out of breath. Your body doesn't know what to do with oxygen anymore. Then you'll also get speed endurance, so how far can you run maximally at top speed. You get strength endurance. So those are all various endurances. How much can you do over a period of time? That's your endurance. Then you also get mental endurance. So mental endurance mostly refers to mental stamina. I know a lot of your sporting dogs need this, and it's very obvious in your hunting dogs, especially if a trial goes over 4 or 5 days. So on day 4 and 5, those dogs are really mentally exhausted. We're not even talking about physically exhausted. Sometimes a dog can really carry on for a long time, but that mental stamina to maintain focus. So that is your mental endurance that you also get. How would you then train for stamina? So we see that endurance, there's various kinds, and we're looking at the time that you are able to do something. But when you are training for stamina, what are you looking for? So training for stamina is also the amount of time that is given to do something, but that doing something, the doing something part is how much a group of muscles can work at maximal energy. So your stamina is, for a human, say now you're doing bicep curls and you're going to pick up a heavy weight. It's how many repetitions you can do where your muscle is working at almost 100%. So as soon as that muscle starts to get tired, then that is your stamina. That is your muscle, your strength endurance. So it's getting that maximal capacity for a group of muscles over a certain period of time. So you are increasing the workload of the muscle. That is your stamina. So as soon as you've reached, you can only do, say, for example, 15 repetitions, then that is the maximum stamina for your muscle. What is your training for endurance? So endurance is also over time, but your training for endurance is not where your muscles are working at full capacity. So if you're looking at marathon runners, for example, those marathon runners are running, but they're running where their muscles are not being used 100% all the time. So a marathon runner and a sprinter is a nice comparison. Your sprinter would be those muscles are working at a much higher intensity, immediately full power, and so they can only run at that full speed for a much shorter period of time than your marathon runner or a jogger. A jogger would be running, but his muscles are not being used at 100% full intensity. So they're used at a lower intensity, but what is happening is because you're going much further, your heart and lungs are working harder or for a longer period of time, rather. And that ability for your body to utilize the oxygen that you're breathing in as your energy source so that you can continue for a longer period of time, the ability of your body to take in air and your heart to pump that oxygen around the bloodstream and feed the muscles, that is your endurance. So it is still time, but you're not concentrating so much as your muscles working at 100%, but more of how long does it take for you to get out of breath. So your endurance is how quickly do you get tired if you are losing breath. So what we're looking at then is when you fail in stamina, you're failing where your muscles fail. Your muscles are too tired. So you're not out of breath yet, but because you used your muscles at 100%, then your muscles get tired. Your muscles tire quicker than you do getting out of breath. Whereas if you are doing endurance and cardio, you will get out of breath faster then your muscles get tired. That is the key difference. So the main difference between stamina and endurance is focus. What are you focusing on? Riani, Flint, sprinting like in flyball, yes. So if you take flyball, for example, the dogs are exceptionally fast. And the entire race, you'll do a few repeats, but there's a group of 4 dogs, and all they're doing is they're sprinting as fast as they can. So it's instant speed, instant power to the plate at the end, and coming back. I think that's probably 10 seconds, something like that. So it's instant, full power on the muscles. But if you're doing canicross, it's not instant, full power on the muscles all the time. The dogs are running a long distance. So they're using a smaller percentage of their muscular power, but they are utilizing heart and lungs over a longer period. Flyball, they're not using heart and lungs. The period is too short, so they have to take energy directly from the muscle. There isn't enough breathing that's happening for that oxygenation of the blood to happen. That 10 seconds is anaerobic, so they're taking energy from the muscle itself. So we know then the difference between stamina and endurance is what you're focusing on. So your endurance, you're focusing on length of time, so a longer period of time to train, and stamina is your focus is on performing at maximum capacity. Where your focus on endurance is maximizing time, so trying to maximize the time that you're actually training your dog over a longer period, longer distance, and stamina is maximizing the performing at 100% of your muscle capacity. Bob, hi Bob. You say, well, now I know we need endurance. I like the idea of mental endurance. Mental endurance is a trained aspect too, that ability to maintain focus for a longer and longer period of time. So even when it comes to stamina, that ability to have a full extent of that muscle capacity on the muscle control, using the muscle to work at 100% of the time, you can ask the body to do that for longer and longer, and that takes practice. Similar to cardio. If you want to be able to run further and further, it takes practice. But you need to know the difference of what you're doing. So when you're using the muscles at full capacity in your strength exercises, for example, the muscles will be broken down more than if they are being used for long distance. And the rest periods between exercises are very different. So like I said, so your training for stamina is focusing on maximal capacity of the muscle over time. Training for endurance is your focus is on training over a long period of time, not so much having the muscle to be worked at 100%. That's the big difference. So when you're failing at stamina, your muscle gets tired, and when you're failing in endurance, you're running out of breath. So it's easy for us to understand. With the dog, we can't really see when their muscle gets tired, but we can judge when their muscles get tired by determining on how strenuous a workload we put on them in a very short period of time. That's the big difference. So then, how much are you supposed to train of each? This is actually quite interesting. If you are training just for endurance, dogs are, so cardiovascular endurance. Dogs are actually endurance machines. This comes really easy to them. So if they are generally unfit and you start taking them for a walk, and so you build up their endurance, stamina, and you take them for longer and longer, they will be able to run almost every day, no problem. Hi, Kevin. Let's see here. I have a GST for IGP. Would stamina be more beneficial? However, for tracking is also needed, but tracking doesn't last as long during a trial. Wow, good question, Kevin. This is really good. So you've got a GST, So German Shepherd Dog for IGP. IGP we know has got 3 phases: tracking, obedience, and protection work. Yes, so for IGP, you would need more stamina than endurance training. You need endurance training to get the heart and lung function really strong. So that allows you to let your dog train for a longer period of time and utilize the energy of oxygen better. That's what you need endurance for. But your endurance training would not be as crucial as it would be for somebody that does bike touring or canicross or anything like that. Your endurance, for example, you need really good endurance for quick recovery when your dog runs the blinds. So to run those 6 hides or blinds, you're looking at 600-700 meters that your dog has to do, but he has to recover quite quickly after that long distance because he has to run really fast. So we're looking at speed, of course, in IGP. Your dog has to run really fast, go around the blinds, and then recover really quickly because he's got to do a hold and bark for almost half a minute while the judge assesses his power at the blind. So after spending all of that energy, that recovery is very fast, and your cardiovascular helps with that recovery. So what you would need to do is you need to do some cardio, but you need to do some stamina things. So there you can do a lot of interval training. So stamina and building of muscle would include a lot of sprint work as well. So sprint and recovery, a lot of muscle work, a lot of getting power in the muscles so that the muscles are get used to working and they use up their own energy and then use up the energy from the oxygen that comes in afterwards. That ability for the body to use up the toxins that build up in a muscle, that comes from being fitter. So you need to do cardiovascular to help the dog rid the body of the lactic acids that build up in the muscle as well. So a really important question. And then you're saying tracking is also needed, but tracking doesn't last as long during the trial. This is true, but you must remember that tracking is a very mental intensive exercise. So for that entire 600 paces that your dog is doing in tracking, he's got to have absolute mental focus regardless of what's going on around him. And that mental focus, that brain function, uses loads of energy, just the brain function. So you'll see lots of dogs when they're tracking that intense tracking, and at the end of the track, they're panting and they're quite finished because they've got to control their breathing. It's got to be regular with how they normal breathing and then also how they're picking up the scent. So that's all got to be controlled, and they're walking with a lot of weight on their shoulders because their head is down. So there's a lot of weight coming forward on the shoulders, and they've got to be able to hold their body. So they have to have mental stamina, and they also need to be physically fit to maintain a constant pace without their body getting tired, because as soon as their body gets tired, their brain will get tired, and you have that problem. So awesome question. Awesome. If it's an IGP dog, your stamina will be very, very important, but you also still need to include your cardio or your endurance exercises. This is quite important. Riani says that agility will be stamina with flyball. Yes, agility is speed. So you need agility, needs endurance because of your practice sessions. You practice doing courses one after the other. So practice sessions are quite long. So at a trial, you'll have maybe, depending on how many classes you've entered, you'd need some endurance so your dog can do the course and recover quickly. So you need to be fit for recovery. But your main exercises will be for strength and speed. Speed comes with power. Speed comes with strength and power. So in order for your dog to be faster, your dog needs to be stronger. But in order for your dog to be really, really fast, you also need flexibility in the muscle, because if the muscle just bites, it's easier to tear. So your strength and power training is almost, you have to be a little bit more aware of the exercises that you're doing. Your dog has to be really warmed up before you start doing speed and power exercises. If your dog is incorrectly warmed up for speed and power exercises, it's easier to get a muscle injury because of the bite in the muscle as they pull off. So there must be a lot of warm-up that's taken place. There must be excellent blood flow in the muscle, and that muscle must be warmed up so it is not, it can flex. That's really important. So yes, agility will be stamina with fly ball. Correct. Bob, you are saying, I've always worked shorter training sessions, and I am now trying to extend these sessions and felt like my dog fizzles some. I'm wondering if it's mental. He does huff and puff. It can be both. You must have a look at what you're training. So for example, this week we just practiced a stand with my dogs. So we did stands and planking. So the dog is not physically really busy, but that concentration of holding the body in a particular pose and all those stabilization muscles, which are all small muscles, having to work a lot harder than what they usually do without you seeing anything on the dog, causes the dog to pant harder. So there's a lot more focus going on, which will cause mental draining, and the body is getting tired. As soon as the brain gets tired, the body follows. So even if you'll see this even in professional athletes, marathon runners, or rugby players that are in a stadium, they can be mentally drained at the end. They're in overtime, mentally drained, and then the crowd will get them going, and so they're going beyond, but the crowd keeps them going. So as soon as that mental switch goes from you feeling really tired to okay, come, let's go, the body follows. So where the brain is at the time of training also determines a lot about the fitness level being presented to us on the outside. So where you see your dog is huffing and puffing, take a look on what you are teaching. Are you teaching something new? Or are you asking if it's ego and he has to just stand still? That takes a lot of concentration from him, and he will become quite fatigued until his body gets used to it. So your mental focus is also something that you train and you extend. It's the same as in IGP when we're doing healing and you're asking for that focus. You're training it where the focus is 1 step, 2 steps, 5 steps before you give a reward. It's exactly the same thing. That mental focus and mental stamina to push through and continue is extended with extra training. Kevin, you are most welcome. You are most welcome. Bob, you are saying that I see that because we are extending our obedience and holding him more accountable. Yes. So he does have to think more now. Look at you. Yes. Excellent observation. Excellent observation. Because sometimes your dog can be physically fit. At the moment, I've got a problem where my dogs are strong, but they don't have endurance because I haven't been able to take them out. We just opened up our clubs now, and I'm able to take my dogs out for long runs, etc. But they are strong, but now I have to increase their endurance. So we've been working on some strength exercises and stamina stuff, especially on the one, but not the endurance. So now I've got to switch and get the endurance going. But luckily for me, he's got the muscle capacity to carry him through. So he will start off really strong, but he will fatigue earlier. So we just got to get his endurance going. There you go. So how much of each should you do? So like I said, our dogs are natural endurance cardio runners. Most dogs, most not all, most dogs are designed for this, and it's very easy for them to become cardio fit. They adapt quickly. So when it comes to endurance and running, you can easily do this 3 to 5 times a week. Anything under 6 kilometers, 3-5 times a week is not going to do any damage to your dog's joints or anything. once they are fit, but build them up slowly. Don't just I can't take my dog, even though he's strong, I can't go and take him for a 5-kilometer run just like that. I would be building him up slowly in the week. But when it comes to stamina or strength training, when you are asking your dog to use 100% of his muscles right now and to build that, so for example, can you do squats 3 sets of 5 or 3 sets of 10 to build that muscle endurance? Can you take him to 3 sets of 12, 3 sets of 15? That muscle endurance, because the muscles will start to burn and the muscles will get sore. That you shouldn't be doing more than 2 times a week, because the muscle, as you're building the muscle, you're also breaking it down. And that breaking down recovery requires 24 to 48 hours to recover. So ensure that whenever you're doing a real big stamina strength training day, the next day you rest that body of your dog. So endurance, you can do any which, as almost as much as you like. Anything that is too much in the end. But you can take it at least, if you are doing canicross, etc., you can run your dog 3 to 5 times a week. Even if your dog is a runner, you still need to do some stamina and strength training. That is important. Don't forget that. Don't just do one for the other. Your sport determines just what you should concentrate on. So certain sports you concentrate on the stamina and the strength training more than the endurance, but you don't ignore the endurance. You still do the endurance. And other sports you'll do more endurance, but you don't ignore the strength training. Same as humans. If you are a marathon runner and you get them, a lot of marathon runners, or not marathon runners, but humans that just run and jog, and they don't go do strength training, their muscles and their body have injuries. So you need to do a bit of both, but it's the amount of each that varies according to the sport that you do. So those are the things that you need to concentrate on when you are doing endurance and stamina or strength training. Kevin, you saying, let me see here, is the recovery rate of the muscle the same as an adult human? It's a good question. The muscle is very similar to humans, and we are both mammals. So human recovery, if we go to the gym and we're not used to going to the gym, and we do strength training, our muscles are really sore the next day, and in day 2 it's even doubly sore. But if you go to the gym quite regularly and you stay at the same strength training, your muscles eventually stop getting sore. Your muscles acclimate to that level of training. So when you say the recovery rate of the muscle will take long at a certain level of training, but if you stick at that level, then the muscle rate of recovery will start to decrease because the muscle gets used to it. The muscle gets stronger and is able to handle that. So then you must look at, how do you progress? How do you get even more out of the muscle? In order to get even more out of the muscle, you then have to increase the strain, the resistance that you're placing on the muscle. But again, as soon as you go to the gym and your muscle's getting used to it, now you're going to go up until a heavier weight. Again, that muscle's going to get sore. And on day 2, it's going to be even worse sore. And until you get used to weight level number B, your muscles then will recover and it will become easier. And so your body gets stronger and stronger. When it comes to a sport, maximal strength is not necessary for every sport. And maximal strength may be unwanted in certain sports. So for example, if my dog is doing canicross, I don't want it to be this powerhouse because the muscles will be too heavy. So you will need a light, lean dog for canicross, but you still need strong muscles. Whereas if your dog is doing a power sport, you need better muscle condition, but your dog must also be agile. So a dog doing protection work for IGP needs to be really strong, but a dog doing agility needs to be really strong for speed, but also not too strong so that the muscle gets too heavy, because it needs to be really agile. So IGP dog needs that strength for fighting, and agility dog needs strength for speed. So it's different. So you have to watch how far you take the strength training. So recovery rate is similar to human. So if you're doing a real difficult resistance training day with your dog, then you must watch your dog, because our dogs, they just love everything we're doing, but they can be sore, especially if it's not something that they do regularly or all the time. So you have to give them time to recover. If you train them the next day, they've just worked their muscles really hard, and you train them again the next day to go for a long run, etc., you then are starting to cause damage to the dog. So you must take these things into consideration when you are working the dog. I hope that helps you. Okay. So there you go. There you have it. Endurance and stamina. Both are important, but in varying degrees, depending what sport you do with your dog, the age of your dog. Please avoid too much strength training for puppies. So definitely no. So we're talking about just adult dogs. You can have young adult dogs, which is from 2 years up, and you can get senior adult dogs. So how you are working your dog, look at the age, look at the sport, and look at the physical condition. If your dog is hasn't got the cardio, like my one hasn't, he's got the strength, but got the cardio right now, take it easy. If your dog has got the cardio, but he hasn't got the strength, take it easy. Build things up. Don't just go in and work your dog to the bone. All right. Kevin, you are most welcome. I'm glad that makes sense. Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right. So then I will say good afternoon. Have a very fabulous weekend and happy training this weekend. Bob, thank you. Such good information. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm hoping that you apply all these things when you're training your dog and when you're doing your fitness and conditioning routines with your dog. Keep an eye on them. Give them the best that you can so that they can give you the best results in your sports with them. All right. Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. And then I shall be seeing you. Let me send up my details. And if you have any questions, please remember you can contact me at thebiokineticcanine.com or email me at fit@thebiokineticcanine.com, and I will see you next week.